13th, 2022 work session of the MARTA Board of Directors. And it appears we can't vote right now because we're having, still working on having one of our members being able to sign in. But we'll go ahead and get started. Let's make sure that Ms. Abdul Salam is signed in as well. It's always great when we have new technology. Are you okay? Great, thank you. May I have a motion for approval of the December 9th, 2021 work session minutes?
Second. Excuse me, you have to use the second.
Yeah.
It'll come up and someone will move, and then whoever clicked the second, and then it'll go for the vote.
Yeah, but is it supposed to come up on the phone?
Roberta has moved, yeah. Okay, you're good.
Where-
I'm still seeing nothing.
I don't see any.
Yeah.
Click.
Okay, but
Yeah.
his has already popped up.
Do you see? So sorry, give us a moment.
It should pop up and get a vote. It looks like there's different screens, different people.
No, I'm already, yeah.
You already voted? Okay.
Let us go ahead and vote for, against, or abstaining.
click on 4?
I already,
Okay.
I did, and then,
Okay, yeah, you there.
all right, so, and then close it.
See the list.
The motion has passed to approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2021 work session. Are we good? Great. At this time, I'd like to announce the 2022 committee chairs, vice chairs, and board members. First of all, the officers of the board: Chair, Rita Scott; immediate past chair, Frida Hardage; Robert Ash III, treasurer; Roberta Abdul Salam, vice chair; Roderick Friesen, secretary. Planning and Capital Programs Committee: Al Pond, chair; William Floyd, vice chair; Russell McMurray, Rita Scott, Christopher Tomlinson, Reginald Snyder, Stacy Blakely, members. Operations and Safety Committee: Thomas Worthy, chair; Roberta Abdul Salam, vice chair; Jim Durrett, William Floyd, Catherine Powers, Stacy Blakely, Rod Mullis. Business Management Committee: Roderick Bryson, chair; Jim Durrett, vice chair; Roberta Abdul Salam, Al Pond, William Floyd, Reginald Snyder, Rod Mullis. External Relations Committee: Robert Ash III, chair; Rita Scott, vice chair; Roberta Abdul Salam, Christopher Tomlinson, Thomas Worthy, William Floyd, Frida Hardage, Catherine Powers. Audit Committee: Frida Hardage, chair; William Floyd, vice chair; Roderick Friesen, Catherine Powers, Al Pond. Board of Ethics: Thomas Worthy. Pension Committee: Roberta Abdul Salam. Wanted to make sure to read those minutes, those committees into the minutes. Thank you. One last thing under our chair report on, I'm not exactly sure of the date, but November 16th is the postmark. I received this card from Miss Brenda Dillard, whom you know we honored with the resolution regarding the passing of Morris Dillard. So I wanted to make sure to share this very emotional card. Ms. Scott, on behalf of my family and myself, please accept our warmest and grateful thank you for the beautiful resolution in honor of my husband, Morris J. Dillard, read and presented by the Board of Directors on October 14th. It is difficult for me to describe my heartfelt warmth that all these years since his departure from MARTA, that he continues to be respected, admired, and remembered. As I stated in my brief remarks, although he was actively involved in other accomplishments and community-based agencies, his true passion and love was always MARTA. He was so proud of being a part, more proud of the staff and employees, and believed that making a difference in the lives of our community has been far-reaching. Our thanks to you, the Board of Directors, staff, and others for honoring my husband and his legacy to our community. With grateful thanks, Brenda Dillard and family. So I wanted to make sure to share that heartfelt card with our Board of Directors and the MARTA staff. With that being said, I will, at this time, turn over to our CEO and GM, Jeffrey Parker. But before that, go Dogs!
Thank you, Chairwoman, and just one thing I do want to mention and welcome Rod Mullis to the board, his first work session and board meeting. So I do look forward to working with you, and staff looks forward to working and getting to know you better. And I'm not sure if you just want to introduce yourself or Mitch. Okay. Well, we will get to know you well over the next months, so looking forward to that. I do just want to mention, and there's a spreadsheet that all the board members have a copy of, and make you aware of something that the leadership team has decided to implement. It's all absorbed within the board, the budget that the board approved for FY22, so there's no action of the board, but I thought it was important to make the board aware of it. As I think everyone knows, hiring has become extremely difficult, and also, we're living in a not unprecedented, but in recent history, inflation has changed pretty rapidly, and the ability for our employees to make ends meet is something that we're all concerned about. And we want to make sure that we also live in a world that, we can retain our employees and present to future employees good opportunities for them. And I know, the governor is considering, some action in his budget, and I've heard several counties at least talking about some sort of, action to address wages. So we will be implementing, and we're working on the timing of this for our represented, our unionized employees, a one-time retention bonus of $3,000. This really matches the hiring bonus that we're giving to new hires. We recognize that, not only attracting people is important, but even more important is retaining the great employees that you have. We are in a year where we will begin union negotiations this year with the hopes of finalizing it later this year. So in terms of any sort of pay increase, percentage increase, we'll take care of that at the bargaining table and bring that back to the board when we have an agreement in principle with the union. So we'll be rolling that out. For our non-represented employees, we do want to give a cost of living increase of 3%. And then we're just sort of some housekeeping issues where we do have a very small number of employees who are below $15 an hour, raising their salaries up to $15 an hour. And we have some equity and compression issues within police and some other key areas where it's difficult to hire, including capital programming, legal, safety, IT, and a few other areas that's relatively small. And this is just making sure that the pay differential between an employee and the person who supervises them is reasonable. So we will be implementing that. As I had said, highest inflation in 40 years. The the hiring, the retention bonus is completely in line with what we're doing to attract people through a hiring bonus, and, you know, more to come on overall wages that we will deal with at the bargaining table later this year. So I'm not sure if anyone has any specific questions or comments about that.
Jeff, I have one, and I embrace this. I think that's great. I'm just curious, out of almost 5,000 employees, how many of those approximately are making less than $15 an hour? It couldn't be many.
I think Raj or Melissa, it's a very, very small group. It's, I think the largest group.
47 employees.
How many?
47.
47.
Okay.
Jeff, quick question, to piggyback off of Al. The $15 minimum per hour, how do we arrive at that, and honestly, is that sufficient, given the amount of, you know, how inflation's increasing?
I didn't hear the very last part of it, but we're trying to get to, you know, I think the $15, there's been several kind of campaigns around making sure that people have a livable wage, and folks have landed on $15, and, you know, like Raj said, are part-time employees, so, you know, that's where we landed. I didn't quite hear the end of the question. Okay.
I have a question for Raj. Are
Raj?
Yeah, sorry.
Of those that are earning less than $15 an hour, are they all the same job title?
I would say predominantly, but there are a few differences, you know, but predominantly they're the same job title, that is correct.
The largest group are part-time parking agents, the people who are working at parking stations for overnight parking and processing payment.
That's exactly right, yeah.
And they're part-time?
That is correct. The parking attendants, Mr. Parker mentioned, they're all part-time, correct?
Thank you.
If there aren't any more questions about that, I'll move on. I do want to just give a brief update of our advertising contract. You know, we have activated the contract with the company Intersections, the new advertising vendor. That contract did start on time on July 1. As a reminder, the contract that you all approved, it's a 10-year contract with two option years. They have gone live with an operations warehouse on January 1. They are working to staff up their local sales team, and so they have told us that they will have their local sales team on board by the end of February. So they're currently doing that remotely as that sales team is being hired. They will ultimately have a dedicated team of between the sales and the operations team being the people who go and change the copy in the stations and take care of the, you know, all those advertisements that they have of 12 people. They have removed the current digital signage that was the leftover advertising that out front had left as of January 10th. And they are currently scoping locations for early digital signage opportunities where they will be adding to our portfolio of signs. So that's moving well underway. The bid protest and the action that was unsuccessful did slow us down a little bit, but we're off and running now. Any questions on that? Next, I do want to ask George Wright to come up, and you know, we have done an awful lot within rail operations to really refocus our efforts around station ownership, and I wanted George to come up and specifically hone in on one aspect that we see is key to to the efforts around station cleaning and landscaping. And so he's going to talk about the overall planning or program around that, but with a focus on the new positions that have been created, all filled, and these are the zone superintendent positions. So George, if you could just introduce yourself and your role as well, and then move through that presentation.
Sure thing. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Wright. I am the Deputy Chief of Rail Operations. I've been with MARTA a little over 5 years. As the Deputy Chief of Rail Operations, I am responsible for the rail station experience. And that experience is, really dependent upon a clean and a clean station and a well-maintained landscape. Next slide, please. There are really 3 takeaways that I really want to drive home in this presentation. The first being is that, to really kind of follow up on Jeff's introduction, is that as a part of station management, the organizations and the roles created were purpose-built to drive improved results. The second takeaway is that we have a resource-loaded plan that will result in cleaner stations and improved work quality along with increased frequency. And for the purposes of this presentation, when I talk about resources, I'm talking about people, systems, and processes. Third, we have accountability, commitment, and timelines that have been established to ensure that we deliver on the aforementioned plan. Next slide, please. In the previous slide, I mentioned purpose-built. What does that mean in the context of this plan? Purpose-built means that that the plan was designed and intended to focus on important goals and deliver better results. In the case of the organizations that were created, and that's the graphic to the left of the slide, you're looking at the totality of the rail system. And a decision that we made was, one, we wanted a greater focus on the station experience. We wanted to be able to demonstrate and exhibit ownership. So what we did is we segmented the system into lines. So we have a business unit identified as Rail Services North-South Line, and that's led by a director, Mr. Jorge Bernard. And then we created a second rail line services organization, our East-West line, and that's currently being led by Mr. Willie Young in an acting capacity. Then what we did is we further segmented the lines into the zones that you see prominently illustrated here in the graphic. And the intent here was to really drive a focus at the station level to improve this experience, and key to that is making sure that the stations are cleaned and that the grounds that the stations are housed on are well maintained. The grass is cut before it gets knee high. There's not a lot of litter all over the place. There are not foul smells and different things like that. When we talk about the zones, that is, I really see that as a game changer. Again, purpose built. This role was created to live day to day, really honing in on a station experience. And this role was really created to really be an agent of change and drive improved results. And finally, in this slide, I do want to indicate that When you look over to the right-hand side of the slide, when we talk about the superintendent station zones and the supervisor station care, these are brand-new roles that were created and specifically intended to drive improved performance in our stations. In the next slide, and please advance. In this slide, what I want to do is take the opportunity to introduce you to Tamara Junte, and she is our newest zone superintendent, and I'm going to ask her to just come up and comment on, you know, really the day in the life of a zone superintendent. Tamara?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Just very quickly, I've been with MARTA for roughly a little over 29 years, and I've held various roles within the authority. In my newest position as a zone superintendent, I am responsible for Zone 3, and Zone 3 is from the airport to the Garnet Station. In this position, I am empowered to engage various departments to ensure that the rail stations and the rail cars are cleaned regularly, repairs are made within our rail stations in a timely fashion, and they are satisfactory. Engagement is taken to a level that is unparalleled. I would say that we are making the change. I am that change agent. I am the owner of the customer experience. I am committed to ensuring that customer experiences don't vary from one station to the other. They'll have an enjoyable ride anytime they travel on our system, and that's something that we are committed to do. And that also will ensure that MARTA continues to thrive, even in these unprecedented times. Thank you. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Tamara. Next slide, please. Why is it truly an imperative to improve the cleanliness of our stations and improve the customer experience in our stations? What you see reflected here in this slide, Roman numerals 1 through 6, are really hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that have been made on the capital side and operating side to enhance and improve the experience in our stations. I think the point that I really want to drive home here is that the investments that we're making in AVIS or the elevator escalator rehab, when we have a situation when our stations are dirty and smelly and the grounds are not really well maintained, focus is diverted away from these things that are really game-changing in our stations, and the focus is really on the negative. So I certainly take it as a personal responsibility, because we want to capture every bit of value we can out of these investments, and to make sure that, really the basics around making sure a station is clean really takes on a heightened focus, and we get better results. I do want to make a specific comment about the rail station rehabilitation. We recently discovered that there were really some opportunities to collaborate with Manjeet's team on the construction side and take advantage of some some resources that avail themselves in that contract to go in and do really some deep cleaning and station refresh. And we just recently had an engagement over at North Avenue that has, definitely been one of our more challenging stations recently. There was a collaboration between the rail ops team and the construction scene, and in real short order, there was a really concerted effort to improve the cleanliness condition of that station. There's still work to do, but if you were to go into that station, you would see evidence of that hard work. Next slide, please. Now, part of this plan, and what, the reason why this plan will resonate is that I'm sitting up here making, and I'm going to make commitments to this body. The first being our eyes-on to hands-on process. And when I talk about hands-on, what I'm talking about is it's an action-biased approach and process that requires the collective engagement and ownership and accountability throughout every area of the rail station by all members of the rail services team and partner business units. One of the key tasks of Eyes On involves daily station inspections, corrective actions, and reporting. So what you see illustrated is it's still in the design phase right now, but it's a station readiness dashboard that we're building right now. And what you see here represented here is a single station, dated, and prepared by a colleague of Tamara's and myself. And what you have listed is just a sample of the inspection items. When this is fully built, you would see 60 inspection items. So you're just getting a sample of that. And what we would do is we would use the stop sign kind of scoring methodology, where green is good, yellow indicates that there are deficiencies, and red being a state that's just not acceptable, requiring immediate corrective action. So we're building this right now. This is a part of that of that system that I referred to earlier when I was defining resources. This will be something that will be part and parcel of what Tamara, her colleagues, and her team will do in making sure that we are identifying the opportunities in the station environment, noting the ones that are acceptable, and so forth. We do intend that this is something that would be open. We would be transparent. So this iteration here would be for internal usage, but there would be something that there would be a version, something akin to some of the KPIs that we post right now on the website that I would certainly be very comfortable with making sure we post publicly and be very transparent with the writing public on our efforts to improve the station experience, specifically cleanliness. Another commitment is that we understand right now that there's additional bandwidth and additional resources in the form of talent. So we're working right now on onboarding an operations program manager that will assist the directors and myself in making sure that we're following through with this plan. I talked about making sure that I collaborate with Manjeet's team, and we're preparing ourselves for the growing season to make sure that we attend to the landscape in our stations. Third, also committing to establishing a third shift station cleaning cohort, and there'll be more to come on that. So there is a plan in place to drive better outcomes when we talk about station cleanliness and landscaping. Next slide, please. Along with those commitments, these are the timelines that we're going to hit. There is a reason that the arrow that we have a arrow in the background. What's important to note here is that we're talking about a process, we're talking about a continuum. If I were to come back in here in 30 days or so, we would likely have additional deliverables and additional nodes because we're going to be continually looking for continuous improvement in our stations. Next slide, please. To close, I'm not just a MARTA employee, I'm a rider. That's how I get to work, and that's how I get home. Our household has one car, and my better half has dibs on that, exclusive dibs. So, so when I go into our stations, I not only go in there as a MARTA employee, but I also go in there as a rider, and I want a clean station. I want clean rail cars. If I do, in fact, use an elevator, I don't want an offensive smell. So What I want to convey and commit to is that these activities that you see illustrated in these pictures, expect that these things occur with better effectiveness and frequency. And with that, I do appreciate the opportunity to present before you, and Madam Chair, I defer the matter back to you.
Any comments or questions? Al?
Commend you for doing this. I think it's important to try to enhance ridership, and these are the right steps. The one thing that gives me pause, and I've seen this in other business checklists or monitoring, I heard 60 items. I truly believe that what gets focused on is what gets measured. And I would challenge you that our 60 items, what you need to focus on, I would suspect there might be 12 or 15. And I don't know how you're breaking them down, but again, I would just challenge you to have your inspectors or monitoring people focus on the fewer more important things versus a long litany list of things. Just a comment. I'm not sure how this will all play out. So.
Yes, sir.
Two things. I would really encourage that you are looking to partner with the capital program. I think it's a really smart way to get the stations refreshed and sharing some money. I would encourage you to look around landscaping to make sure that we are having a beautiful experience as people come in. And finally, on the dashboard, I would hope that you could possibly publish, once you get finalized, publish the results on social media and to publicize that the work that you're doing, and so they can get instant feedback.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question. Thank you very much, George. I appreciate this because this is very, very important. On your checklist that I'm looking at, I see that there's a column for pictures. And I think that, I'm assuming that that's where you can take pictures of areas that are of
Yes.
concern and then you can address them. I think that is a great way to really home in on the areas that need to be addressed because a picture that shows you everything. And if you work off of that, then you'll know that those areas will get cleaned. So I appreciate that being on your checklist.
Thank you. So, yeah, certainly what we envision is really a very living and dynamic type of platform. So the ability to drill down, understand who did the inspection, be able to gauge how long it's taking to close the work order, to make those corrections, that's part and parcel of what we're looking at doing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wright, thank you for that presentation. That's very thorough, and I appreciate all the thought that you guys are putting into this. I know it's a work in progress, and I know, as you mentioned, there will be benchmarks that will be reached over time. But one of the things I really wanted to make sure we focus on is how we communicate to our riders that we're doing this. And I know people will see it on some level. It's like I say, it's a work in progress, so they'll see it as it's being ramped up. But I really want to get ahead of it as an organization and tell our ridership that we are doing this and that we have a plan of attack, a plan of action that we're actually executing. So just internally make sure we have a really, and I didn't see it in your presentation, I'm sure you have it, but a way we're communicating in a very intentional way to people that we're really focused on this and we're doing it.
Thank you for the observation, and what I did not mention is that, you know, we started with hands-on, where we're going out there. For example, tomorrow, twice a month, instead of having a early morning meeting with my team, we're going to be meeting at a couple of stations tomorrow, and that's a cadence and twice a month frequency that will occur. So that's where we're going to be out in the environment, and we're going to be putting eyes on the station. And then the expectation being that we're going to put hands on that, and we're going to correct those deficiencies that we see. The third part of that is what we are branding as Game On, and that's where we would push out content to the riding public, letting them know what we're doing, being very open and transparent with what we're doing.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wright, for the work that you've put into this. I think that it's going to be very successful. I do have a question, though, whether or not it's under this program or your purview, about the restrooms at the stations. Is that you?
Yes, the restrooms
Okay.
are a part of my purview at the stations,
Okay.
yes.
So have we managed to carve out a way for passengers to use the restroom at the stations? Some of them are locked and some are not.
I guess I would respond this way, is that I would love to see a future where, all 38, stations have publicly accessible restrooms. We're not ready for that right now. I intend on being around long enough to help create a situation where that could be realized. As you know, right now, we do have access in, I believe, 16 of our stations, and there are things that are happening with our partners in capital to transform those restrooms to make them smart restrooms, kind of automated restrooms, and that type of technology provides us opportunities to kind of expand that type of access, and that would really need to happen first.
So a follow-up question to that is, today,
And that's why we've got this project in place, what we call a smart restroom. Someone would indicate by pushing, hey, I want access into the restroom, and then we have peer access into that. So right now, it's somewhat archaic. Someone has to
on Thursday, a gentleman trying to find somebody in the bathroom and couldn't find anybody. He soiled himself. And he was very, and I know that stations, I think, have a station agent.
station agent.
Okay, good.
And again, Jeff mentioned some of right now with, around vacancies. And it's likely that College Park in line of sight of that restroom, so that we can let people
George,
in.
though, can you just talk a little bit, because clearly the primary role is the station agent, right?
Yes.
And we don't know why that station agent wasn't
Correct.
there, right? I mean, there could have been a vacancy, whatever, but you mentioned the eyes-on and the hands-on program, and talk about how that is aimed at getting our other employees to engage. So eyes-on is, and hands-on, so if you could, kind of talk about that.
Of course, yeah, it's certainly often the case that we have a very diverse cohort moving through our stations at any given time. So, the expectation would be is that if I have, let's say, a station maintainer, a station cleaner, performing their functions within College Park, for example, and they see that individual trying to gain access, they ought to be taking the initiative to say, ma'am, sir, is there something I can help you with? Yes, I need to use the restroom, and they have the ability to allow that individual into the restroom.
One of the things that this gentleman asked was, is there a bell or something that I can ring? How do I alert somebody? I walked around, I can't find anybody. Is there another way? Because if you use the phone, the phone at the station, you may or may not have somebody there to help you.
Well, we certainly have phones that dial directly into customer service. We have phones that will take you directly into, into the police and different things like that. But I don't know if the gentleman, attempted to use the phone, but someone should respond, and we certainly have the ability to page that station agent or get someone over there, particularly in a location where College Park, where we tend to have MARTA actors in that station throughout the day. And that's part and parcel to what Jeff was referring to when we talk about eyes-on, hands-on.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the frustrating things over the years has been when a city or a county maintains the area around the station, and MARTA hadn't done their part in the station. And I'm thinking now we may be getting to the reverse situation where MARTA does its part to keep its station clean. Somehow there has to be communication with the city or the county to do their part too. Because most of the time when you walk into a station, you don't know where the station starts and the other area ends. So rather than asking a question, you've just got to figure out a way to communicate this with the cities and the county about what their responsibility is there.
Sure.
And maybe we can help with that in making sure that everybody knows this effort at the city is going on, and that you need to put a little more effort into this, especially in areas like where there's a lot of activity going on out in the area around it, and could do that, because it becomes very, you know, if you've got a trash can there and somebody sets a pizza box on top of it, well, you know, and if it's busy, it doesn't take but a couple of hours to fill up one of those things. So there's got to be some sort of way to communicate if the city's making the effort and MARTA's not, or if MARTA's making the effort and the city's not. How do we put all that together? So and that's 20 years of frustration. Okay, so anyway.
Thank you for the comment, and I'm glad you made it. So you met tomorrow, and embedded in their job responsibilities is to build relationships in those communities where the stations are. So as we develop those competencies and skill sets, she would build relationships with the jurisdictions in her zone and have those conversations about, hey, this is your responsibility here. Work with us and handle that, please.
Fun over the years to yell at MARTA when they weren't doing their job. So maybe it's time for MARTA to yell at some of these cities and counties about doing a little better job, because it all comes together.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the appearance, I mean, when you walk into a station and it's the city's responsibility to do something, they haven't done it, well, the natural image is, well, MARTA's doing a crappy job, when it's really not. And so I think that the effort here is obvious. I mean, you are really making an effort. Time will tell whether the passion stays 2 months or 2 years, you know, and how you maintain that. But one of the ways to do that is to make sure that whoever the area is around there is aware of what you're trying to do and what's going on. So.
Yes, sir.
One last question about the stations that have operating restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
There's 16 of them.
Yes.
Can you share that with,
Yes, absolutely.
which 16, and
Yes.
then share your plan of action to get them all up and operating, okay?
Yes.
All right. George, I apologize. I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. I think there's maybe some snow coming. Do you want, share anything? We haven't had, real significant, winter weather in some time, and I know we're working towards being prepared. So maybe just a few comments.
Sure. Like you say, Jeff, we're certainly getting prepared for what is expected this weekend. We do, in fact, have a established and long-lived winter operations plan. So we'll be, for example, meeting this afternoon with my partners in bus and other partner stakeholders, and we'll be forming that plan. A part of that plan, we will be considering things like, do we need to bring some of our critical workforce and have them stay at hotels or something in close proximity to their work sites. We will start making plans around, do we, based on the temperature and what might accumulate, do we run the trains all night long to keep the tracks clear? So it's a very comprehensive winter plan. It's been a few years, but I've certainly worked through those, and it'll be old hat once we dust it off. We will be ready.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Any questions about that?
From some of us that will be working 24 hours a day along with you guys, Are you going to update that on the website so that those of us that need MARTA to get their employees to work?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Keep that fluid on the website, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. And then the last presentation, I'm going to just ask Luz to come up and give a quick update on our impacts around COVID-19.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Parker. I will be very brief, just a couple of slides to bring you up to date on the most recent information regarding our COVID-19 cases. As you can see on this slide, our data shows that we are experiencing a meaningful decrease in the number of positive cases from the last week of December to the first week of January. In addition, as you can also see here, we're doing better than our service region, which is still very much experiencing a significant surge. Our early indications for this week show us that we are having a smaller number of cases, and so we're really hopeful that this will be sustained as a trend and that we are on our way back from that COVID surge fueled by the Omicron variant. Next slide, please. We have consistently experienced an increase in the number of vaccinated employees who have uploaded proof of vaccination. And as you can see here, 76% of our employees report being vaccinated. And consequently, the number of employees that are being required to submit weekly tests has been progressively diminished over the last couple of months. And finally, a few words regarding testing. We had the opportunity, thanks to our Chief of Staff, Melissa Mulinax, to offer a free testing program this last Saturday for employees. 45 employees took advantage of that opportunity. It was indicative of what's going on in that out of the 45, only one tested positive. So those are good signs. We are in the process of developing an agreement to establish a temporary testing program at a centralized and accessible location for all of our employees. And you will hear more of that as we finalize that program, but it is imminent. We recognize the importance of it, and we're ready to move forward. And with that, I'm finished with my report, Mr. Parker, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Luz.
Thank you.
That concludes my report, with the exception of there is a list of the upcoming meetings. I won't read them to you. They are listed out, some in person, some virtual, and they're noted on the list. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. At this time, we will call the executive session to order.
I move we enter executive session
For the purpose of
for
litigation.
the purpose of litigation.
It was second. Let us raise our hand. Thank you. think we're having another little technology hiccup. Are we great? Are we good? Right. At this time, we'll call to order the January 13th Board of Directors meeting. You should not have to sign in. The system should do it for us.
Don't hit split screen yet.
Don't hit.
Don't hit anything yet.
Don't press the button. Are we ready?
Under public comments, I guess.
You may now press the button. Please click on split screen, and your screen should split. Did that happen, Frida? Great. Are we all good? Great, thank you. At this time, we're going to ask Mr. Andrews, are there any public comments?
Yes, ma'am. We did receive an email from Dr. Ed Williams, Chair of the Group of Concerned Citizens for Effective Government. His email will be attached to the meeting minutes. That is it.
I do believe that one of our board members they were unable to send their public comment in and asked the board member to read their comment.
Yes.
Ms. Abdul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Received a text message from Sherry over at Georgia Stand Up, and I think we all know Sherry, except for maybe the new people. But it goes back to communication, and I think that was Mr. Wright. It says, other than on the website, how will MARTA communicate with riders regarding schedule changes for this weekend, with the anticipation of bad weather?
Thank you for the public comment. At this time, we'll ask for approval of the minutes. May I have a motion for approval of the December 9th?
Worthy moves.
Second? Oh, you gotta click the button.
Let's click the
Thomas?
button.
Yeah, and then I'll second. Oh. All right. So now we gotta vote
Let us
for it.
click the button.
Yeah. This is for, against, and abstain.
You can vote at this time. Should be able to vote for, against, or abstain. The motion has passed. We do have one abstention. Thank you. Are there any matters to come before the board at this time?
Yes, ma'am. If I could, we would ask that the board approve the settlement in the case of Rachel Tyler as administrator of the estate of Chicola Johnson versus MARTA, civil action file number 2017 CV 287279 in the amount of $5.7 million to be paid by MARTA.
I'll move approval of that settlement offer.
It's been properly motioned and second. We'll vote by hand. No buttons to press. The motion has been approved. Thank you. At this time, we do have a response to the public comment. This is a comment from the board. Go ahead, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did just want to mention, George had presented our preparation around the potential winter storm. We may very well have some requirements to change our service levels, either bus or rail. And as we always do, the normal channels to get that information out is if you go to our itsmarta.com page. On the top is the status of each of the modes, including elevators and escalators, and any service deviations, would be around there. Our media folks will be working closely with, radio and television outlets in case there's anything substantial, and, pushing information out to them that's out of the ordinary related to winter weather. And then finally, within the stations, our AVIS system has the exact information that's available on the web. I do see Donna DeJesus in the back, and clearly her team will be working extra hours manning the phone lines to make sure that we get that. And then, the final thing that we've done fairly recently is, we are actively now responding to social media tweets. So we'll be looking for information if people are asking us questions during the storm on social media and answering those. So I think we'll do a good job in pushing information out about any sort of service changes.
Thank you. Mr. Worthy, did you have a question?
No, ma'am.
You're like, oh.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, the only thing I would ask is, because this was read under public comments, that we respond to Ms. Williams in the normal way that we would a public. Thank you. Are there any other comments from anyone on the board? Hearing none, we consider ourselves as adjourned. Thank you.